Good morning, 6 a.m. batch. So, आज का agenda is we are looking at the critical reasoning. We are moving into the next segment, the next lesson, and which is the assumptions-based questions. So today we will be discussing the assumption-based questions. So before starting it, I want to give a very special quote for a 6 a.m. batch. Okay. The last batch actually I usually take is a 9 p.m. batch. And so today, usually the 6 a.m. batch is my first batch in a day. And as we say, the people who are early to bed and early to rise makes them healthy, wealthy, and what? Wise. So I will hope in this class, I will have that wise part coming out of every one of you. So how many students we have? We have around 76. So it's a big class. So I want everyone to contribute. Right now, you can answer by chatting, audio, video, anything you want to talk about to. But till the time I'm completing my lecture, try to use the chat option only. And after that, only start the audio and the video option. Also, before starting the class, some kind of a background I want to give. We'll always keep in mind some of the, I would say, the fundamentals or the Bible quotes, as we say it. So there's some fundamentals in CR which we'll always keep in mind while doing the CR questions or while taking the classes. See, the first thing you should always remember is there's some words always should be in your mind. One is the logical reasoning part. So logical reasoning, you always have to keep in mind that I'm dealing with something which is very much related to the logical reasoning part. Okay. So the common sense reasoning will come as a big player. Okay. Now the second thing you should always be think is a pattern to recognize. And I think you must remember one of the class which even I have taken with your batch or might be with the evening batches. But the one thing you should always keep in mind is CR is much like maths. थोड़ा सा वो fundamental अपने दिमाग में रखो. So pattern recognition will come as a very important part too. And the most important thing is the analytical thinking process. I'm not going to the definitions of it. Okay, I'll give you some layman understanding in this here. Right now, I actually the main agenda of today's class is an assumption-based question. So I don't want to take you into any other area. I'm just giving some fundamentals so that we have a much better clarity while trying the questions. So I'll be using the Hindi and English both so that everyone is able to understand. Trying to repeat both the things into Hindi and English. So analytical thinking क्या है? Analytical thinking का meaning basically CR में है कि when we divide the passage into different fragments or parts or facets, हम एक ही चीज को different parts में बांटते हैं और उसको different roles देते हैं. For example, some of the things in the analytical, when we are dividing the whole passage into different parts, what are the different things you will hear today? The one thing which you will hear from me is a statement. Statement is the unit of every passage. Sentence is a unit of every passage or a paragraph, same thing. Statement comes as a part. What statements make? Very good. Statements make arguments. Arguments मतलब क्या हुआ? Argument मतलब ये नहीं कि हम दोनों लड़ रहे हैं. Argument means we are making a point. Okay. When I'm making a point at 6 a.m. batch is the wisest batch of all. So I'm giving the reasons like people rise at 6 a.m. They have much healthier. They're mentally much more healthier, much more even healthy physically. The same thing I'm trying to make an argument here. The next thing you will hear from me is the assumption, which you are going to hear a lot today. Assumptions means, in simple terms, assume. We are going to assume something which is not there, and we are going to assume. Just like it will not be written in the passage, but it will go take a very important role in reaching a conclusion. So it will be the main pillar of the conclusion, or in a way, an assumption will take a very big role, and just like a premise or a fact. So the fourth term which you will hear from me is the premise part. Premise means basically is very simple, and that means the fact or an evidence. I'll give an example. A 6 a.m. batch is a wisest batch, that's my argument, and I'm giving an evidence that they have a better BP, that is a blood pressure, they have a better pulse rate, blah blah blah. And in giving the evidence of proving my point. So premise means an evidence. And the next thing you would be hearing from me is the inference part. Inference is usually, we call it conclusion of a reader. And the last thing you'll be hearing from me would be the conclusion. Conclusion is author, or a person who is writing the passage is trying to reach a conclusion. Inference is of a reader. Conclusion is of the author. So conclusion is the sacrosanct. Conclusion is, we are never challenging the conclusion. We are never challenging the premise. We are never challenging the assumptions. We may have a difference of opinion and all, but then also something will remain sacrosanct. If I say, let's say if I'm saying India is the smallest country in the world, I start the passage in that way, we are not going to challenge it. So we're going to remain in the same kind of a domains. So this is one of the fundamentals you always keep in mind. One more fundamental, एक और सार या बेसिक्स जो आप हमेशा याद रखेंगे कि सीआर में हमारा टेस्टिंग, ये एक आईक्यू टेस्ट है, कैट है, जीमैट है, सीयूटी है, सैट है, कोई भी टेस्ट है, ये आईक्यू टेस्ट है। आईक्यू टेस्ट में कभी भी लैंग्वेज टेस्ट नहीं होती। तो अगर आप कहीं फास्ट रीडिंग पढ़ रहे हैं तो आप गलत हैं। रीडिंग का कोई एस्पेक्ट नहीं है, फास्ट रीडिंग से कोई फायदा नहीं होता है। नेक्स्ट इज वोकैबुलरी. Vocabulary, you don't need to have a very good vocabulary. You just need to have, if you are a graduate, which a CAT and GMAT or a UPSC and SSC guy would be, and if you're able to understand your course books, then you are very apt, you are equipped, you're qualified to go for any IQ test. Reason being, you don't need to have a vocabulary of Shashi Tharoor to pass any IQ test. IQ test is not meant, or that they have not, that's not the objective of their language, is not an objective. So what is the objective? The objective of an IQ test is always understanding. So we will just keep in mind when we're doing any verbal thing, or even the maths quant or DALR, that the idea is to understand. So IQ test is always looking at, are you able to understand the meaning? Are you able to understand the passage? If you are able to understand a reading comprehension or a critical reasoning or a parajumble or a parasummary, you are going to hit the correct answer very easily. So the focus should be always on the understanding part. So these are some of the basics on which we're going to build today class. So everything's fine till now. Any questions, you can put it in the chat. Even if anyone wants to start their audio and talk, they can. But till the time the lecture is getting completed, I would like everyone to talk in the chat. After the lecture is over, you are free to start your audio, video, anytime. Okay, and interactive. Fine. So now we'll move into more of an assumption-based questions, and we'll try to see some of the basics there. Okay. Now, coming to the assumption-based questions. So what are the 5 types of assumption-based questions you have? You have assumptions, you have evaluate, you have flaw, you have strengthen, and weaken. Assumptions means assumptions. The question will, this time will have assumptions written in it, and even it will infer in that way, or in a way, in the meaning would be the to find the assumption. Evaluate usually they will give a problem to you. They will give some ways or two ways usually, and you have to evaluate which way is correct. Flaw in the reasoning is very much easy, which I think in one of the class I've taken even the fallacies we call it, or the errors in reasoning. So that's the same thing. Strength and weaken means strengthening or weakening the assumption. Okay, we'll come into it, but before moving into it, so we will just have some understanding of the assumption-based questions. So when we're talking about assumption-based questions, some of the basic things I can go into very minute steps, but for today class, what we are going to do is first of all identifying the question, assumption hai, evaluate hai, flow hai, strengthen hai, ya weaken hai. Then after that, what we're going to do is we are going to deconstruct the argument. Deconstruct means the same thing. We have a passage which is a very, I would say, sterile or a neutral kind of a passage. We are going to divide or deconstruct into different parts like statements, assumptions, premise, conclusion, inference, and everything. So till that this time, everyone is very clear. Now, in assumption-based question, one of the technique we usually use, and every teacher, every book will tell you that it is an assumption negation technique. Assumption questions, there is a very, it is a boon, there is a God-given a strength or a kind of a, I would say, a way it is there in which we can check our answers. Let's say, usually, an IQ-based questions will have a 3-2 split. If there are 5 options, usually it will have a 3-2 split. I mean to say you would be able to reach the two correct answers very quickly. And actually the struggle starts how to choose the correct answer out of the 2 correct options. So what the point I'm trying to say is, and a kind of an assumption negation technique we will be discussing today. Then after that, what we'll be doing is we'll be evaluating each and every answer statement and then reaching the correct statement. So in a way, we will be going from the wrong to right approach. So till this time, everyone is with me. Any questions till now? You can always put it in the chat. If anyone have are not able to understand even a thing, they can even start their audio. Okay, good. Good. Very many yes are coming, so I will move forward. So, but one very important thing in assumptions, as I told you, is the ANT, which we call it as assumption negation technique. But the problem lies elsewhere. Actually, what I've seen in all my experiences, I have seen many teachers and I've seen many books even talking about the negation techniques, but no one is talking about how to do a negation. So what exactly, even I have written here, what to negate and how to negate is very important. And which part of the sentence to be negated? Well, which part of the sentence? I'm having some sore throat today. Okay. So a sentence will have 2 parts. One is a subject part, one is a predicate part. So which part exactly has to be negated is a very important question. Usually the predicate will have a verb in it, and in all the things we are negating the verb, whether it is a modal verb, auxiliary verb, main verb, and all, but we are always negating the verb in that. Usually sentences, three types of sentences are there. One is simple sentence, compound, and a complex sentence. In all the sentences, layman language, simple sentence will have very simple sentence which will have a verb, a subject, and might be an object. A compound sentence will be a combination of 2 independent clauses or the sentences which can stand on its own. Complex sentence will have clauses which may or may not be able to stand on their own. Even they will be more of a, I would say, they will be based upon the main sentence. They can, the clauses or the phrases which cannot stand on their own. So I'm just giving a layman understanding, not moving into the very minute understanding of sentences. I don't want to carry the focus from assumptions to a very different topic. So the point what I'm trying to say is we are negating the verb. But what exactly many of the students in the assumption-based questions they do is usually many of the people don't know how to negate a sentence. That is the first. So what are the challenges we usually see with the students is the first thing they will struggle with is they will not know how to negate. So how to negate? And the second important challenge is we are always taught that we are negating the statement. Even the books tell us that if you are looking at the answer choices, and let's say you have already that assumption, you have already marked your answer, you have already reached your answer, and you're checking your answer with the assumption negation technique. So what many of the books and everything will be teaching you is you just negate the answer choice or a statement or a sentence and try to see is the conclusion still standing. Is everyone clear what I'm saying? Do you want me to rephrase the whole thing? Do you want me to repeat it? Okay. Do you want me to repeat? Okay. Okay. Let me repeat it once more. I'm when you have an assumption-based question, the question will be something like this. Okay. Let me show you the question. Let's say this is one of the questions we are talking about. So usually this kind of a questions will have like this kind of, this is called the stimulus. Okay. This is called the question and these are called the answers. So there is nothing very difficult to understand here. But the point what I'm trying to say, just wait for a minute so that I'm giving some kind of gaps so that you are able to understand there are three parts to the question. Everyone is able to understand the three parts, okay? Yes, very good. So what the point I'm trying to make here is that the this is called the stimulus part, okay? This is called the question statement, these are called the answer statements. Now this question is straight away saying the question which is the following is an assumption. So if this is an assumption based question, isn't easy to understand. But even if there is nothing, no word called assumptions, there if the meaning is coming as an assumption, you have to understand it's an assumption based question. So as I told you, an IQ test is all about understanding. So keep the talks in the keep the understanding of yours, keep the objective very clear, and that is I'm just trying to understand the thing very clearly. That's my main objective in the class. So the point I'm trying to make is when we are looking at the answer statement, usually we will have one or two choices which will be very likely to be true or correct answers. So how we check in the assumption based question is we negate the statement to see whether the conclusion is still standing or not. I'll give an example to you how exactly it is built. Let's say this is the conclusion part. Okay, this is the, okay, leave aside. I will use the more space so that you understand. ठीक है ना? Everything is much more clear over now. Okay, so when let's say if I'm looking at the structure of any question, let's say this is a conclusion part. Okay, so conclusion will be based upon an assumption, and that will be a building block would be, let's say, premise or the background. I will call everything into the background knowledge. Okay, now if I negate the assumption, if I negate the assumption, this will fall. If assumption is falling, obviously the building block over it, the conclusion is also supposed to fall. So when I negate a statement, the conclusion or the whole argument of the author should also fall. Let's say in a case assumption को negate किया और conclusion fall नहीं कर रहा है या argument fall नहीं कर रहा है, तो वो answer correct नहीं है. So the checking technique of an assumption based question, we call it as ANT, not AMT. Like in cars, we have for auto manual transmission, not AMT, we call it ANT, assumption negation technique. So in the assumption negation technique, the simple thing we are taught is negate the statement and you will reach the answer. But the problem is, what is the problem here is 99% of the people will not know how to negate. If you ask any person, any student in the class, and even I can put the question to you even, well, how to negate? When people will say, just add not or no. So give me one example of a negation technique. Let's say if I'm using a very simple sentence, Ravi is dancing. So a negation is very easy and everyone will say Ravi is not dancing is a negation of that sentence. But do you really think is a negation of a statement which you're looking at or negation of a logic? So I just need to bring a small twist to your understanding so that you are able to mark your answers much more correctly. What I've seen in my experience in negation technique, when people use a negation technique, people are so focused in negating the statement that they actually loses the whole perspective of an IQ test. If, if as I told you in the even in the earlier classes and even in this class, even I told you, IQ test is all about based upon the understanding part. So kabhi bhi, it will not be focused upon the negating a statement. It will be more concerned about negating the logic or negating the meaning. So why I'm bringing this forward, I'll give more examples so you will understand. So what are the things you are able to, let's say if I'm taking a summarization of the whole thing, what we are talking about, it is not about negation of a sentence, or in CR language, we can call it statement, answer statement. We are not doing that. We are actually negating the logic or the meaning. Now, you may think that what is the main difference if the same? If this is not the same actually. If you are negating the statement, actually you will take it out of the scope of the paragraph many of the times. I'll give an example to you. Let's say I give a sentence to you. Let's say I say, all my classes, the statement is, all my classes are, are good. Let's say if I'm negating this statement, what you will say? Now, simply if I negate it by use put a not, I'll say, not all my classes are good. What does it mean? In logic or in meaning, it can even mean, it can give two kind of a meanings there. Okay. The one meaning is some of my classes are good or not good, or any of my class is not good. So there are two meanings which we have got actually. If I negate a statement, I'm not reaching the negation of my actually logic or the meaning. Am I making sense to everyone? Let me give more examples so you understand. See, if I am using a negation of a statement kind of a strategy, many of the times I will have a wrong negation done. And with that, the conclusion may fall or may not fall, and I will mark the wrong answer. I've seen many of the students, rather 90% of the students, if you are using a negation technique in the on the statement and you are just negating the statement, the answer statement, you are highly likely, whether I think you have around 70-80% chances of marking the answer wrong. So always keep in mind, I'm not negating the statement. What exactly I'm negating is the logic or the meaning part of the sentence or the answer statement. I'll give one more example to you. See, if I say negate the word black, let's say black color, we'll simply negate it to white. But how to negate blue color? How to negate a gray color? I'm just giving making you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, I'm reaching one more. I will give one more example to you. Let's say I say to you, um, what the next sentence can be. Yes, I had burgers or a sandwich every day last week. Last week I had sandwich on every day. I ate sandwich on every day, or I had sandwich or burger every day. Let's say negate it. So if I'm putting just a not, what I will say is I didn't have sandwich every day last week. So what does it mean? If I'm not having sandwich every day last week, does it mean I had sandwich or a burger on some days, or it does it means that I didn't have the sandwich on any day last week? So there are two kind of a meanings I'm bringing just by putting not. If I say, I'm repeating my sentence, if I say I did not have sandwich every day last week, does it means that I had the sandwich for some days, or does it mean I didn't have it for any day? So if you bring an ambiguity to the meaning of the thing, you are likely to mark a wrong answer. Reason being your negation is wrong. So the point what I'm trying to say is it is not an ANT, it's not an assumption negation technique. It is basically a logical negation technique. So try to understand what is the logic or what is the meaning of that sentence, and then try to negate the logic and not just by putting not or no, you are going to reach your answer. Am I clear? Let me give one more example to make it much more clear to you, and so that you understand what I'm trying to say. Let's say I say to you, let's say there was like some crime in some city, and there's a statement. Exactly one police car reached the crime scene. So the sentence is exactly one police car reached the crime scene. Let's say negate it. Not exactly one police car reached the. So this is a basic way students will be doing. So everyone even will teach you the same way. Put a not. So I'll just add not. Giving a very clear example, I'm adding a not, and the sentence becomes not not a single police car reached a, not exactly one police car reached the crime scene. So what exactly I'm saying? If one didn't reach, so did two reach? There are two police cars which reached there, three, four, five. So what is the answer? So or otherwise, I'm saying not even a single police car reached there. So there's an ambiguity in understanding of the negation. If you have an ambiguity in the understanding of the negation, you are doing it wrong. So once more repeating the same point, it is not assumption negation. It is not negation negating an assumption. It is negating the logic of an assumption. An assumption is just you will just be given a sentence. So you are not negating the sentence. You are negating the logic or the meaning. So I think I'm clear till now. So I think I understand you might be learning in a very different way. So towards the twist will bring. I know you may or may not be very comfortable with it. Let's do this question. Just try to understand how. Let's pick an assumption question and we'll try to move through it. So the question says, Hindi, Urdu, and French are the three languages spoken in France. So many of the people will say Hindi is not in France, but we will always be whatever they are saying, we are accepting. Okay, with Hindi spoken by the majority of France's residents. Okay, I'll accept it. Thus, by learning Hindi prior to visiting France, tourists can feel confident that they have done the most that they can to assist in communicating the France locals. The locals, if we are knowing the Hindi, we have done the most. So the statement says, the question statement says, which of the following is an assumption of the argument above? Which of the following is an assumption? Now, there are four statements which are going. The first statement says, travelers to France will not visit other countries in addition to France. the statement first. Read it very carefully. So what do we say about A? So there are more than 80 people in the class. I want an answers quickly. See, the first statement is actually irrelevant. It has nothing to do with the passage. Passage is no mentioning about it. The second statement that I'm reading, Hindi is easier to learn than than Urdu. So does in the passage anyone had a talk about the easy way of understanding or knowing it? So it also goes out of the park, okay? As we call it, irrelevant. Now look at the C statement. Most tourists are committed to effectively communicating with the residents of the countries that they visit. Now, this is a statement which goes very much close to the passage. So we are going to, what we're going to do is cross, but this is the whole statement. We are going to hold it till the time. We're going to read all the statements and we will see, is it the most correct answer we have? So the D statement said learning both Hindi and Urdu would not allow tourists to better communicate with the residents of France than would only learning Hindi. So this is a very close statement. And this is also we go to hold. Now the next statement, Hindi and Urdu are both commonly spoken in countries other than France. Irrelevant once more, it goes out of my passage or out of the scope. So we are ending with the two statements right now. So as we have learned it, we will try to negate the sentence or negate the logic. We are going to negate the logic. Okay. Looking at the statement of C, I'm going to negate it. Okay. Most tourists are committed to effectively communicating. So this becomes easy. Even not is giving the same logic. So I'll say most tourists are not committed to effectively. They are not committed to effectively communicate. So the statement becomes not committed. So does it in any way, if people are committed or not committed, does it bring any change in the conclusion? Does it? So what the point is, if I'm negating a statement in an assumption, if I'm negating an assumption, the whole argument or the conclusion should follow. But this is not following. Rather, why to even see that thing in the negation things? In the passage, we are not even, is there any talk about commitment of anyone? Are people are people committed in the communication? Is there any reference directly or indirectly? So I don't even think this is a correct statement. So this actually we don't even check the assumption. Now the D part. Now I am actually got my answer in D, but I shouldn't be sure about the answer till the time I'm negating the logic of it. So what is the logic here? Learning both Hindi and Urdu would not allow blah blah blah. So if I'm going to negate it and the statement is already having not, this is a not. So I'm going to erase the not. So what is coming here? Learning both Hindi and Urdu would allow tourists to better communicate with the residents of France, then they would only be learning Hindi. So actually, if I use the negation of the statement, it's my whole argument is falling. Actually, my whole conclusion is also falling. So what the conclusion says is just the Hindi will give me the more, I will be most acute. Okay. But in the D statement, it says learning two languages will make me better communicable or better communicate. I would be able to better communicate with the locals. So this is the right statement by what I have, how I have reached here is negating the logic. In this case, the negating of the logic and negating a sentence is very much similar. But what an IQ test would be happening is that in IQ test, even your teacher or the people who are making that IQ test are aware that you use the negation technique. And negation, and as I already told you many other times in my previous classes, that IQ test is all about understanding part or the meaning part. So it is never about negating a sentence or a negating a statement. It is always about negating the logic or negating the meaning. In an IQ test, it is more focused upon the meaning part or the understanding part. So the logical negation will give you much better results compared to a sentence negation. So usually, many of the times, if you have a statement which may not be very extreme in its meaning, you by just adding a not will change the meaning. Not only it will change the meaning of it, it will, I can also take the whole sentence or a whole statement out of the out of the passage boundaries. So always remember that when you're negating a statement, don't negate the statement, negate the logic or the meaning. So I know it's a small kind of a twist to the whole thing, but as you practice, you will learn it, and we will also do more practice in the upcoming classes. Okay. Chaliye, always keep in mind the IQ test is focused upon the understanding part. Okay. Chalo, bye bye. See you.